Good evening. You're now with me, Lorenzo Isaac, for TVS Nightline. We begin with this story. KUCHING takes a historic step in the air transport sector as it welcomes its first ever direct international flight from Guangzhou, bringing approximately 145 passengers to the state. State Deputy Minister of Transport, Dr. Henry Ginep, says the arrival of this flight reflects growing travel demand between KUCHING and Guangzhou, while positively impacting the state's tourism and business sectors.
We come in, and there will be add up more flight. People easy to fly in, fly out. Definitely that will be a good thing for Sarawak. So we hope for the best, good future for Sarawak, and especially in this airline industries. They created more job opportunities, and also downline industries. Okay, this is something good.
He adds that Air Borneo is currently working to strengthen its international presence, as the company has yet to establish a strong global operating track record, with several initiatives underway through collaboration with other airlines to expand its flight network in the future. This development not only makes travel between the two destinations more convenient, but also expands connectivity and boosts Sarawak's overall economic growth.
The Middle East conflict continues to escalate, with Iran vowing retaliation after Israeli strikes killed a key Iranian security figure. Here are the latest developments from across the region.
Iran will hold a funeral on Wednesday for its security chief Ali Larijani as it steps up calls for revenge. The country has already fired a wave of missiles at Israel following his death in an airstrike. That barrage killed 2 people near Israel's commercial hub of Tel Aviv, while Gulf nations intercepted rockets and drones targeting sites, including U.S. bases in the region. Iranian state media reports that funerals for Larijani and another senior figure, Gholam Reza Soleimani, will take place in Tehran after their deaths were announced on Tuesday. Larijani is the most prominent figure killed since Israel and the U.S. launched attacks on Iran on February 28th, an escalation that has sparked a wider regional war. As military tensions rise, Iran is also warning that the consequences of this conflict will be felt far beyond the region. Its Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi says the repercussions will hit all, regardless of wealth, faith, or race. Army Chief Amir Hatami has also threatened a decisive and regrettable response to the killing of Larijani. Amid the escalating conflict, Iran has executed a man convicted of spying for Israel, the first such execution since the war began. The judiciary says the man, identified as Kourosh Keviani, provided sensitive information and images to the Mossad. Authorities say he was arrested during Iran's 12-day war with Israel in June and detail his alleged contacts with Israeli agents. They also claim he received training in 6 European countries as well as in Tel Aviv. While the conflict intensifies on the ground, its economic impact is also being felt globally. Oil prices fell today after Iraq resumed exports through Turkey, effectively bypassing the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. benchmark West Texas Intermediate dropped more than 4%, even as the U.S. struck Iranian missile sites near the key waterway. At the same time, equity markets rose, with investors returning after early losses despite ongoing geopolitical risks. Analysts warn, however, that this optimism may be short-lived if the crisis drags on and energy costs continue to rise. The Strait of Hormuz, through which a fifth of global oil and gas flows, remains effectively closed by Iran as a form of economic leverage. In response to supply disruptions, countries are now seeking alternative energy sources. South Korea has secured an additional 18 million barrels of oil from the UAE through new supply channels. The move bypasses the Strait of Hormuz, which normally handles about 70% of South Korea's oil imports. Meanwhile, Iraq is also working to stabilize its energy sector amid the crisis. The country has resumed limited oil exports through Turkey's port of Ceyhan at a rate of 250,000 barrels per day. The resumption follows disruptions linked to the Strait of Hormuz and comes after agreements with the Kurdistan region to use northern pipeline routes. Officials say the move is critical, as oil accounts for about 90% of Iraq's government revenue.
U.S. President Donald Trump says NATO was making a foolish mistake on Iran after the military's alliance's members largely rebuffed his calls to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz to oil traffic and later blame UK's Prime Minister Keir Starmer for the lack of support in the offense against Iran.
But no, I was disappointed because Keir was willing to send 2 aircraft carriers after we won, because essentially there's no threat for the aircraft carriers right now. And I said, no, we want things sent before the war, not after the war is won. So, yeah, I'm disappointed with Keir. I like him. I think he's a nice man, but I'm disappointed.
Since Trump's call for assistance at the Hormuz Strait were largely rebuffed by many of NATO members, he told the press that the U.S., quote, no longer need military help in the Iran war. Days leading up to today was spent gripping about how world powers have so far declined to send warships to escort tankers through the narrow waterway through which roughly a fifth of global oil and natural gas passes. During the same press conference, Trump says the resignation of the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, NCTC, Joseph Kent, as a good thing.
Well, I read his statement. I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. I didn't know him well, but I thought he seemed like a pretty nice guy. But when I read his statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country realized what a threat Iran was.
Kent resigned as he opposed the U.S. ongoing war with Iran and implied that Iran had posed no imminent threat to the U.S., which contradicted the position of Trump and his administration. In his resignation letter, Kent stated he could not continue his role while opposing the war and argued the conflict was driven by external pressure, including Israel's immense influence in the U.S. administration.
In southern Lebanon, images are coming out of buildings turned to rubble and others still ablaze after fresh attacks by Israel, as well as empty streets as locals seek safety inside their homes. RT correspondent Steve Sweeney sends us this report showing off the aftermath.
Well, we're now here in Nabatea City. We're in a Christian district of the city. This is an area north of the Litani River, but is now included in that exclusion zone. Now, as you can see behind me, this is a school. This is a Catholic school. And if we can see just inside here, you can see the impact from where one of the missiles struck this area. Now, this clearly isn't a military target. This is a civilian building. Now, according to the latest statistics from the Lebanese Health Ministry, more than 100 children have been killed, and around as part of the 800 people that have been killed since the Israeli escalation on March the 2nd. Now, there are talks that there could be some kind of negotiation, and now again these talks will be taking place between representatives of the Lebanese government, representatives of the Israeli government. However, Hezbollah, which is leading the resistance, engaged in fierce battle with the Israeli Defense Force, particularly around the border town of Khiam, has said that a ceasefire, well, it remains out of the question.
In Lebanon, we are fighting a legitimate defensive battle to confront the vicious Israeli-American aggression. We were not facing a sound situation. We were facing a barbaric act that has been ongoing for 15 months. We have fully prepared for a prolonged battle. God willing, they will be stunned on the battlefield.
Well, we've come across Nabatea into the village of Douer. This is an ancient village full of stone buildings. Now, you can see the scale of the destruction behind me. It's come under repeated attack. This is now part of the combat zone, part of that area that's been subject to that Israeli evacuation order. However, most of the attacks took place here before that came into effect. Now, the emergency services, well, they continue to work on the scene. They're working under extremely difficult circumstances. We heard in the south on Friday, at least 12 paramedics were killed in an Israeli strike, but they continue to work despite the dangers that they face. And we spoke to one emergency worker who explained why they remain on the ground.
This is our choice. It's about our relatives. It isn't just a job for us. It is about moral duty and responsibility. As always, we won't abandon them and will stay with them. The Israeli enemy is manifesting a novel cruelty. Our centres have come under direct attack. 6 healthcare workers were killed, 23 more people injured. The enemy thinks this would prevent us from remaining by those close to us, but this only gives us more strength and determination. And every time we face this cruelty, we're getting more determined to stand against it.
Israel since issued a statement claiming without evidence that Hezbollah is using ambulances and medical facilities for military purposes. Speaking exclusively to RT at Jabal Ammar Hospital, Hezbollah MP Hussein Jashi refuted those claims and also reiterated the organization's position on a ceasefire with Israel.
The Zionist enemies are cruel criminals. It's not something unusual or new for them to target ambulances or medical staff. We locals know they are hostile to anything in this country. We are accustomed to lies and deception from the Zionists. In the 4 wars they unleashed on Lebanon, they were the ones asking for a ceasefire. So they ask for this and at the same time claim that we are the ones seeking negotiations in order to undermine the morale of our people.
Well, we're in the historical city of Tyre, one of the oldest in Lebanon, now effectively finding itself on the front line of Israel's war. Now, the Israeli Defense Minister, Israel Katz, well, he's issued a warning to the Lebanese government. He said that they're going to take control of more of Lebanese territory. Troops now are amassing on the border ahead of a potential large-scale ground invasion. But he's also issued a warning to government buildings, saying that they are now legitimate targets amid fears that that could even include the international airport. Now people are talking on the ground in terms of months rather than weeks, and it seems that it will be civilians that pay the ultimate price. This is Steve Sweeney for RT in Tyre, southern Lebanon.
The Sarawak government approves an additional public holiday in conjunction with this year's Aidilfitri celebrations. Sarawak State Secretary Dato' Amar Muhammad Abu Bakar Marzuki announces today that the specific day depends on the sighting of the moon. If the 1st of Shawwal falls on this Friday, March 20th, then next Monday, March 23rd, becomes the extra holiday.
This declaration is an extension of the public holidays already stipulated under the first schedule of the Public Holidays Ordinance. The move follows an announcement made by Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim last Monday, who declared the extra nationwide holiday to recognize the dedication of citizens throughout Ramadan. Anwar says the early announcement aims to help citizens across the country to better plan their travels for the upcoming festivity.
The Kuala Lumpur High Court today has granted Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim's application to strike out an originating summons filed by P. Waitamurty. The suit challenged Anwar's appointment as Prime Minister and his election as the Member of Parliament for Tambun. Justice Alice Loke Yuching, in allowing the application, rules that the court lacks jurisdiction to hear the matter, saying that any challenge regarding election issues must be submitted via an election petition.
Justice Loke further notes that the High Court, in hearing this summons, is not sitting as an election court. She states that under Section 33(1) of the 1954 Election Offences Act, election petitions must be tried by an election judge appointed by the Chief Justice specifically for such matters. The court ordered Waitamurty to pay 80,000 ringgit in costs to the Prime Minister. On August 12 last year, Waitamurty filed the suit seeking a declaration that Anwar's appointment as Prime Minister on November 24, 2022 was unconstitutional, null and void. He also sought a declaration that Anwar's victory in the Tambun constituency during the 15th general election was invalid.
Those were the updates on TVS Nightline. I'm Lorenzo Isaac. Thank you for watching and have a good night.